Hello everyone, I'm Arthur from BlockTempo, and today we are very honored to invite the Bitcoin important promoter Ajelex. And before we dive into the interview, Ajelex, would you like to introduce yourself first and tell us what you do and what's your background?
For sure. So my name is Ajelex. I work for a company called Plan B Network, and I'm in charge of global expansion, which is the reason why I'm here today in Taipei, in Taiwan. Do you want me to explain maybe what Plan B Network is?
Yeah, of course. Sure.
So Plan B Network is an education initiative. We're trying to scale Bitcoin education around the world to try to have the maximum number of people that understands Bitcoin quite well, so they can become Bitcoin professionals or even just be knowledgeable enough to use Bitcoin in their daily lives, whether it would be for store value or even as a medium of exchange.
Yeah. So So you said you travel around the world and not travel, but you educate people from global. And as Bitcoin grows, governments still starting to pay attention on Bitcoin. So when promoting global Bitcoin education and expansion, how do you deal with the regulatory uncertainty and policy change regarding crypto across different countries?
So I guess the answer that I have to this is that Plan B Network itself is located in 2 jurisdictions that have very little uncertainty, at least the lowest, which is Lugano, Switzerland, and El Salvador. When it comes to global expansion, we are relying on our network of partners, such as Taipei, with the Bitcoin community here. And we think that they are the one that knows the regulatory framework the best.
Oh.
So instead of going there ourselves, we're pretty much helping those communities to with anything that they would need in order to promote and make better education themselves. So that's the kind of network effect we're trying to have around the world.
Okay, so you say like you find the local community first and work together with them. Yeah.
So we are looking for Bitcoin communities. So that's why there is this kind of like vetting process where we go around the world and we see if the places we want to connect with have the same values that Plan B Network has, because the world is big. There are some bad actors, and so it's why it's a lot of work, because we got to reach out, try to see the founders, try to see if our values align, and if it's the case, they can become a Plan B Network node.
Yeah.
And in this case, we try to help them as much as possible with the work that they're doing.
Yes. So I'm curious about like in regions with like limited internet access or undeveloped financial infrastructure, where the actually less place, like where the demand for Bitcoin might be relatively higher. So how do you overcome this technical barrier to promote adoption and understanding of Bitcoin?
So I think that internet is not an issue as much as people think, because there are a lot of developing countries that have internet access before even getting a lot of other infrastructures such as water or even electricity. Even though internet needs electricity, you can go to a lot of places, for example, remote places in Africa where they would have cell phones, but they won't have power in their home, and they go maybe to charge their phone in like a specific place. And so therefore, I think that the internet is going to become less and less of an issue, because Bitcoin is not ready for mass adoption right now. And by the time that it will be ready for mass adoption, internet will not be an issue. And for example, I've been talking about this a lot for a long time. Projects such as Starlink, which is pretty much distributing internet evenly and globally without requiring ground infrastructure. I think they're going to play a key role into just spreading internet evenly. And right now there is one company that does it, SpaceX. But I'm sure that in the years to come, we'll see many more companies trying to compete, offering the same service of global expansion, because there is a huge market of people to grab by giving them internet access in general. And I think there are a lot of companies that are going to be trying to grab that market share. So this is what I think. And also, if I can add, I think that this lack of infrastructure regarding internet is actually driving innovation. I would invite viewers to look at projects like Machankura, which is a project that use feature phones. So a feature phone is something like a Nokia 3310 to be able to use Lightning using those phones. So it uses the USSD protocol within those phones to run a custodial node. And so this project was born in Africa. You can look it up. There's a lot of information about it. And so in this case, the lack of reliable internet access actually drove innovation to make it possible for someone without internet access and just the most simple tech from 20 years ago, and for him to be able to use Bitcoin. So I think that internet access in general is going to be not really an issue, or at least not the issue that Bitcoin is going to face if it wants to tackle mass adoption.
So the lack of internet is not a big deal, and even push the new innovation of this area. Nice. We, the most successful for the Bitcoin adoption example is Salvador, and we continue to follow example Salvador, where Bitcoin education is beginning to take like root in lower grade school, like children, even teenagers. So, but we are thinking like, however, in Taiwan, education system is quite difficult to make change to the curriculum. So, how do you think we can achieve widespread Bitcoin education among younger generation, such as teenagers and children? And do you have any suggestion?
Well, I think the answer is you guys. Like you are from here, and you know how to talk to your public, and so you're the one evangelizing, or at least talking about Bitcoin and spreading it within Taiwan, because it would be much harder for me to come here and talk about Bitcoin. Yeah. So actually, I think it goes through that medium, and I think that Bitcoin adoption does not follow regulations. For example, the country with the biggest, I would say in this case, cryptocurrency adoption is a country where it's mostly banned, which is Nigeria. So when you look at Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general adoption around the world, you see that there is a divide between regulation and usage. And so when we're talking about Bitcoin adoption, are we talking about nation state accepting Bitcoin? In this case, it's really hard for me to think of the next nation that's going to be following El Salvador. But when it comes to usage, I think usage is going to come with the need. The more we're going to see countries and populations suffering from the financial market in many aspects, that's where adoption is going to grow. And so, just pick a country like Nigeria, Congo, Argentina. Those countries, they understand the value proposition of Bitcoin for the simple reason that they need an escape hatch and so I think those generations are going to be the first one to those countries, and the younger generations in those countries are going to be the first one to jump onto Bitcoin, and the countries with more financial freedom are probably going to be the last. So I think it's the greatest reversal of power when it comes to finance that we'll see because the last are going to be first.
Okay, nice point. Like, have you ever seen those countries not facing financial crisis? They just they have healthy financial system, but maybe they see the future. So they want to use the Bitcoin. Yeah. Any example for like those countries? They are really interested in Bitcoin system. Yeah.
Well, I think that one example, which is also in this case not tied to Bitcoin specifically, they're Argentina. When it comes to USDT, we can see that Argentina is people are looking for dollars because their money is devaluating really fast. And in this case, we see a peak in usage because people are looking to save their money from inflation.
Oh, okay.
So Argentina, for example, is one of those countries where adoption of different money is cryptocurrencies is being done. And so when it comes to Bitcoin specifically, you can see a lot of things going on in Africa in general. I follow pretty much the communities, and there is a lot of things happening in Congo. There are a lot of things happening in Benin, in Togo, Nigeria, as I mentioned before. So there are many places where people are excluded from the financial system, and for them to be able to just send money away or receive money from overseas, instead of having like a payment processor like Western Union taking like a 20% cut, they can just use Bitcoin, receive it, and just exchange it then to their local currency and avoid having a bunch of middlemen taking cuts everywhere. And so there are still challenges. We're early, but if you talk to those people, they have quite a good understanding of what Bitcoin is and actually what it can do for them.
Yeah, it's very interesting. In Taiwan, most of people like see Bitcoin as an investment tool and not a lot of application. They didn't know application side. So how do you, if you travel and educate global people to know about Bitcoin? So how do you measure the success of Bitcoin education and initiate in different regions?
So how do can you repeat the question again, please?
Measure the success of Bitcoin adoption in different regions.
It's a good question. For me, Bitcoin is for anyone, but it's not for everyone. I'm only talking about myself when I'm going to be saying this. I think that some people will not be saved.
Oh.
There are some people that will just never get it, and they will die on the hill they are on. And I think that Bitcoin is for those that accept to be saved. And for me, measuring the success of Bitcoin is pretty much seeing the people that are excluded from the financial system and seeing that they actually use Bitcoin, maybe not even on a daily basis, but on a monthly basis or just any kind of usage. And so it's hard to have like a perfect metric to say that Bitcoin works. I think it will work. I think there are some people that are very early for whom it has worked, but I cannot think of a specific metric because then it would be about defining the word worked, which is different on an individual basis, and so it's kind of like a nuanced answer that could probably take hours of discussion and probably like maybe a 5-hour podcast. So I would say that it's a nuanced answer and approach that we need to take in order to measure if Bitcoin works.
Yes, nice. And how do you balance when you teach Bitcoin? And Bitcoin has a lot of concepts like POW or like when Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know who is him, and a lot of technical things. So how do you balance in teaching Bitcoin technical aspect with its philosophical ideals? Like, how do you balance?
So I guess Bitcoin touches a lot of different topics. It's sociology, it's economics, it's history, it's a lot of things, and everyone is moved in a different way by one aspect of Bitcoin. So I think the best approach when you're talking to someone about Bitcoin is just to understand who you're talking to. And if you're talking to someone who works on the energy grid, maybe you should talk to them about mining.
Okay.
And they don't care about the philosophy. But maybe if you're talking to an economist, then you can go into the topic of like the history of money and what Bitcoin solves. And maybe then you're talking to a developer, and then you can talk about the code. You can talk about the proof of work. So Bitcoin is very, very large as a topic. I think not everyone is gonna get every little bit of what it is, but everyone is gonna pretty much focus on that one topic that they understand the most. But at the end of the day, if Bitcoin wins, people don't need to understand. For the same reasons that you use most of the things that you use every day without even knowing how they work. You just know that they work. Like right now we're filmed by a camera. I myself don't even know really how a camera works. I just know that it solves what I'm trying to achieve. And if a camera needed someone to understand every little component in order to be used, it would not work. So right now we're early, so that's why most of the people interested in what Bitcoin is are the ones that are trying to understand how it works. But in the future, when Bitcoin will have worked, it's when people will just take it for granted and it will just work seamlessly without them even knowing that what worked.
Yeah, the Bitcoin company is very large, and we can divide into different pieces to every type of people. So I think that's a good note on here. And thank you again and for giving us like the opportunity and the challenge of the Bitcoin promotion. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Check out Plan B Network. Learn about Bitcoin. Take your time, but learn about Bitcoin. That's the most important thing. Like it can change your life. So take a little bit of your time to just learn at least one thing about Bitcoin, maybe every year. And you'll thank yourself in the future for having done so.
Thank you again, and enjoy the night event.
And thank you for having me.